Right, welcome to Rambling Achieved, podcast episode one. I'm Looney, and this is Unnecessary Rambling.
What's going on, man? I'm pumped to be joining you for your first podcasting endeavor, for your first content creation endeavor. I've been wanting you to get on this train for a while, so I'm glad you're kicking off your channel here, man.
Yes, it's going to be one hell of an experience.
Hey, man, the tech issues they'll come and go, but we'll get this thing rolling out. So I mean that's probably a good introduction point to just let people know what this endeavor is and what to expect from the channel, from the podcast, all that good stuff.
Yeah, just obviously chatting about anything gaming related that's happening in the eco space. Today we'll be covering the topics of that Xbox uh, Direct that's coming up on, you said the 18th, I believe,
Yeah, yep, on the
um,
18th.
and our thoughts on that. And yeah, just anything else that pops, what we've been playing, any other news relevant to the time when we're recording and just stuff like that. Just a nice laid back discussion.
Definitely. And we've talked about this off stream, off recording, whatever you want to call it. I, I want this to be your project, and unnecessary rambling will still be my project, main
Mhm.
project. So I'm assuming you'll probably see some solo recordings from you on this channel, and then we're just gonna do this podcast whenever something pops up that we want to talk about, we want to get together, just kind of chat about it. Just like a fun getting together, shooting the shit about games whenever something, especially within the Xbox ecosystem, that's really,
Mm,
uh, that's your bread and butter.
yeah.
And I love picking your brain about the different goings on within that ecosystem because I know you're so entrenched in it and have been for so long. And now, I'm kind of brand new to the ecosystem with
Mhm.
the Series X. So it's like I like getting an old timer's perspective, someone who's been around in the Xbox ecosystem for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like I've told you 100 times, you're one of the most knowledgeable motherfuckers in that ecosystem, period. So I love picking your brain.
Thanks, man.
No doubt, dude. So what you thinking? So where is your podcast hosting brain taking you? Where you want to kick this bad boy off?
Well, we'll go with that direct as it is the forefront of the information. Yeah, big reveals that they're going to be diving into with obviously, like you said, Indiana Jones with machine games, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
That's the one I really want to kind of stop on for a second and chat with you about because first off, we're obviously recording this before the direct. We'll see whenever we can get this thing uploaded and get it out there. But I want to get your prediction pre-direct, third person or first person.
Ooh, they've only done first person games, haven't they, with the Wolfenstein franchise?
Yep, never third.
Um, Yeah, but you think of an Indiana Jones game and you think it has to be like third because you think like Uncharted and everything, Tomb Raider,
Yeah,
they're not in first person.
and
So
like you want to
it'd
see
be
Indiana
risky.
Jones.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
the whole point.
yeah,
Yeah, but they have obviously studios because it's all under the Bethesda umbrella. They can ask for help. You would hope that's how that works. You'd hope that they don't just leave them out to dry and be like, well, figure it out yourselves, guys.
and I mean, I'm sure that they have plenty of talent on that team who've worked in the third person space, and I'm sure they hired a bunch for this game specifically. But I think about Dying Light, and it's weird. There's a lot of similarities between Dying Light and Indiana Jones, just in terms of like those death-defying jumps, and
Mm.
there is something immersive about being in the first person space. And am I going to be able to reach that ledge? When I'm reaching out, trying to make sure I don't fall to my death. Like there is something immersive about that first person experience, but I have to agree that I would I would be a little bit disappointed if the first licensed game from Xbox in ages, really since I mean I'm probably wrong, but I can't think of really anything other than Knights of the Old Republic licensed titles. Is there something in the 360 or Xbox One era that I'm forgetting?
No, I don't believe so. They kind of stepped away from it. They were offered the ch This is what frustrates a lot of people. They were offered the chance to make that Spider-Man game that Insomniac made, and they turned it
Right,
down. So I think,
right.
yeah, it hasn't been since KOTOR, probably, that they've
It's
paired
so
up with somebody, which is just bizarre.
yeah. It's so crazy to think about the future reality where Xbox buys Insomniac, Spider-Man's exclusive to Xbox. Like there, it's just a an alternate reality that I'd be so fascinated to explore. But yeah, no, I that's Indiana Jones is for sure the game I'm the most curious about at that direct. And they said it's going to be the first gameplay showcase, the first gameplay trailer. So we're gonna get a full understanding of what that game is going to be. And I'm really, really highly anticipating just seeing what the hell they're cranking out over there.
Yeah, that's got to show a lot of confidence to have it lead off because you want to start strong with a showcase. Because if somebody tunes in and is like, ugh, and they just tune out, they're not going to see the rest of the show.
Yeah. Oh,
So that's crazy.
is Indiana Jones kicking off the show?
Oh, I thought that's what you said.
Oh no, my bad. I'm saying I'm eager to see it for the
Oh,
first time, like seeing, finally getting a
yeah.
real gameplay showcase at the event.
Oh, okay.
I don't know the order. I would assume that's probably last. But here's the thing about that direct is do they do another Hi-Fi Rush? Do we cuz last year remember
Yeah.
whenever they announced the direct it was like okay, we have whatever Forza, Redfall, whatever they had on the docket, but there was no mention of Tango, no mention of Hi-Fi Rush, and then they
Mm.
just dropped it in the show. So do we see another
Yeah,
Hi-Fi Rush
that's what's
scenario?
been floating around in True Achievements. A lot of people think that they're going to do another Shadow drop because it would be weird for them to have done that last year. You'd think that okay, you're going to just keep doing that moving forward. If you're going to do these directs, drop something in straight away in January for this Game Pass just to get it rolling immediately. It'd be very good.
Let me ask you this. So, do you think there's a likelihood of okay, do we get a shadow drop where it's like, hey, it's available right now? Or do you think because I think that might set a dangerous precedent that okay, whenever you see a direct, you're always gonna have to expect a shadow drop that day. And maybe does that put the pressure bar, does that put the pressure too high? Does that put the bar too high? Could we possibly see a world where okay, Doom Year Zero gets revealed at this showcase and then gets a date for like say March before the June showcase because I think that could make some sense where it's like okay we have the June showcase that we already know every summer we're going to get that big Xbox showcase
Yeah.
but if we have something that we're cooking up that we think will release before that and it's just like a big kind of unexpected announcement, do you think that still has enough cachet, or does it have to be a shadow drop like you're able to play it immediately?
The thing is, like, Hi-Fi, it was even nominated for a lot of awards in the end last year. But even then, it didn't feel like many people played it. It felt like it got a lot of critical acclaim, but like many people I've talked to, they didn't even touch it. Didn't even know it existed, which is crazy.
Wow.
Um, so it's a risky thing. I think it's good though to drop these smaller like titles. If you're gonna shadow drop something, it would be good to drop it in them directs at the beginning of the year because it also gives it room to breathe. There's not really much coming out at the beginning of the year, really.
Right. Yeah. You make an interesting point a second ago where you said that a lot of people that, play Xbox, they didn't even know about Hi-Fi Rush. Do you think it could have benefited from a little bit more marketing? I mean, obviously, whenever it hit, the shadow drop was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And there was some inherent marketing within dropping it that way. But do you think there
Yeah,
could have been any benefit to just like, okay, we're going to slowly trickle this out and, give you 4 or 5 months to build it up?
I think it was also the uniqueness of it was like a rhythm game, right? A rhythm combat game.
Yep.
They've not really done particularly well. Like platformers don't really do well on the Xbox. Xbox is really trying to push for JRPGs to take off, and they're really not doing too hot
No.
either. So I think it's unfortunate, but a lot of Xbox gamers are just set in their ways. They like the old school. They just like first person shooters and third person shooters. For the
Yeah.
for the majority of it, it's just how it is. Why they pushed so hard to get COD because they know
Hmm.
that's if they can land that, that'll benefit their player base because they know what they like. They've got the obviously all of the statistics and data. So
Let, let me ask you this. Can you shadow drop Doom? Is Doom too
no,
big?
no,
Yeah, that's
I
that's
don't think you could shadow drop Doom. In my mind, if I'm thinking of things we've not heard about, what would most likely probably happen is maybe something from Double Fine or something, a smaller game where
yes.
they're just like, here's like an adventure title or something like that.
If I had to throw out a prediction, I think it's one or two things. I think it's South of Midnight or Double Fine if it's a shadow drop.
Mm.
That's it right there in that Hi-Fi Rush vein, double A. Probably, I'm not. I mean, I'm excited for both. Whatever the hell Double Fine's working on, I'm really excited for South of Midnight. But I do think that those AAA $100+ million budgets, you're going to want to market them a bit heavier
Yeah,
in the case of Doom and stuff like that. And even with Indiana Jones, um, people speculating, okay, could that be the game that that gets a quicker release date? A quicker release date I could see. Could
yeah.
you see Indiana Jones?
No, there's no way. I would be shocked if they kicked off them was just like, here you go, guys.
Of course, yeah. Could you see Indiana Jones releasing in 2024 at all?
I could, but I don't think it needs to, if that makes sense, because they've had so many games on the back burner, like Hellblade 2 is so far in development. You have Avowed a lot closer, it feels. They could push it out the door, but do they really need to? Because you don't want to oversaturate the market. Like they have Game Pass for a reason. You don't want to top load it with like three titles in a very short period. You want to space them out because then
Right.
it
Yeah.
gives the consumer the illusion that they are because they could drop it all free and you'd have it immediately, but you wouldn't play all free immediately. You'd want to space them out.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And especially games of that ilk that are story driven, they want you to
Mm,
kind of sit there and simmer with it for a bit. I'm sure that Avowed is probably 60, 70 hours. Maybe not. Maybe more in that Outer Worlds vein of 30 hours or so, but still a chunky game. I'm sure Hellblade 2 is going to be much bigger than the first game. So you want to have a little bit of room room to separate those big titles, but it's because I mean we're getting the deep dive into Avowed's combat, and I know they talked about the agency and the story driven the choices you can make in the blog post. So it's seeming that because that was my thing. It was I felt like Avowed had some likelihood of being delayed out of 2024, but if they're wanting to go that in depth this early in 2024 talking about the game, that makes me think it will release this year.
yeah, I stand by it. I think Avowed will drop this year. Um, I don't see it getting another delay, really, because it doesn't have all that much excitement to begin with. So you dragging it out longer and longer. Because, like I said, not many people are tied to the Pillars universe, and you just need to get it out to get Obsidian back on track as well. Because they haven't done anything since the Outer Worlds, I believe, which has been a
Well,
few years now.
they did the smaller stuff, the Pentiment and the Grounded, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
definitely not the full A team. This is the
yeah,
big team and their next
yeah.
real
Their main
AAA title.
projects. Yeah, their main projects, not side projects. Not to
So
slander the side project.
no,
They've
no,
been very good.
for sure, and you're correct. It's not; those aren't full teams cranking those out. This is
Mm.
their next real big project. But let's transition over to that. I do because I know you're such a big fan of the source material there. What does Avowed need to show you? Does it need to prove anything to you? What are kind of the big things you're looking for going into
So
that?
without obviously going into spoilers, it needs to. Pillars 2 ended on a big thing that was going to affect everything. So they need to at least acknowledge that. Because if they just go into it and just completely ignore it, it'll be very strange. Because I know it's set in the future.
Hmm.
Um, but as for me, as I've mentioned it many times before, it needs to just be darker. Like I can't. Yeah, you can have like light-hearted areas, of course, but the entire tone of the game of Pillars is not light-hearted. It's very, very, very dark, very dark. So I'm hoping that they can recapture that and not make it into a Skyrim like clone. I don't want that at all. Maybe I'm in the minority of that.
So for you, this is more it's more about tone than anything else.
Yeah,
You're fine with how the gameplay looked at the
yeah,
last showcase. You're fine with you just kind of want aesthetic
yeah,
changes. You want to see something different in the
yeah,
world and okay.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So we know we're getting that. We know we're getting Indiana Jones. I guess moving into Hellblade 2, um, same question there. Is there anything else Hellblade 2? Because Hellblade 2, we've seen a good bit of that at this point. Is there anything you want to see more with Hellblade 2 at this direct?
I just hope it's just not boring. Like I don't want the repetitive puzzles. Like if they've been acquired now, this is the time to, because the original game was a lot more smaller scope, it felt.
Yeah.
Come in with a
Yeah.
big budget and show us what you can do because they're not a small team. They're not inexperienced either. They've made big titles in the past. So
Y-
get back to that caliber.
Right. Yeah, and it's because I'm with you. I I know people love that first Hellblade game and I appreciate it. It's one of those games where I can appreciate but not necessarily enjoy.
Mm,
And that puzzle solving was just so boring to me.
yeah.
Like
And even the
unbelievably
combat was
boring.
very, very simplistic, considering who it came from as well.
Right, which is so weird. A team that has that pedigree, to for the one key takeaway that I think most people would have from Hellblade was like, oh my God, incredible visuals, incredible audio design, great story, lackluster combat coming from
Mm,
Ninja Theory, Heavenly Sword,
yeah.
DMC, Enslaved, like they've created great combat systems in the past. Weird to see them kind of falter on that. And I don't think the combat was bad in the first Hellblade. It was just like you said, really fundamentally simple.
I think they might look at the new God of War reboot and maybe take a little bit of inspiration from that to clean it up
So
a little bit.
yeah, let's stick with that because that's a conversation I've heard or a topic I've heard kind of thrown around a lot is that could Ninja Theory be that Naughty Dog, Santa Monica? Could they be in that upper echelon of incredibly cinematic, just crazy overproduced game? Could they be in that tier? And I also wonder with the first game being so much about psychosis and mental health and diving really deep into that subject matter with a tighter budget, is is that even really what you want from Hellblade? Do you want it to be this overly produced, overly polished? Like, would it lose some of the effect? So I guess I'm asking you two questions simultaneously there, but one, I guess we'll kick it
Um,
off. Do you think they should be that Naughty Dog level studio? Do you think they should even aspire to that?
oh, of course they should aspire. Each of these um, studios that they've acquired, they've not been acquired cheaply. You have the backing of Microsoft. Like they need, I think they just need to take more risks, if anything.
Hmm.
They've been playing it safe a lot of the times with these things. Um, but as for could they reach it? And should they, like you said, with the Hellblade, would you want it to be this massive, big budget thing? I don't know if that would be the IP to do it with. This is obviously a pretty looking game. Very, very pretty looking game, especially that second one. But I don't know, it would be nice if they could start from scratch and not be rooted with what they've got because how much further can you take her as a character as well? She took like a
Right.
massive beating in that first game. What
Well,
It's going to be interesting to see where the story goes from now because it felt kind of complete. Because I never finished it personally, but I saw the ending.
yeah.
It didn't really feel like there was much more left in her saga, as it were.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of the thing too, man, is that like you're and I love those PlayStation games. They're some of my favorite games ever. But you are going to lose some of that grit. I don't know though, because you look at The Last of Us, that first game, in the second one as well, there it's undeniably produced within an inch of its life, but it's
Mm,
also incredibly, incredibly gritty. So I think you can get that out of Hellblade, but there was something about that spirit, that indie spirit, Ninja Theory kind of going off on their own, no publisher, no funding, and there was something about that spirit of like we're going to swing for the fences and be on par with AAA visuals, and but we have a specific vision that we're trying to hit. But the more I'm thinking about it, no, I think you're right. You get acquired by this trillion-dollar company and you're given hopefully a pretty much limitless budget. Like the aspiration shouldn't be just more of the same. It should
mm,
be, hey, what the hell can you do now that you have the same type of funding that some of the best AAA developers in the world have? Can you create games on par with what some of the best AAA developers in the world can create? Because they no matter how you want to slice it, that's the space you're in. This it's no
yeah,
more triple I. You're not going to be viewed when Hellblade 2 releases, it's not going to be viewed under the same lens of like, oh, good job. It's crazy that you were able to create that on your own. Now it's like you were funded by Microsoft. We want to
no,
see that
exactly.
in the product.
It's the next step. It's the You're not independently publishing it. You're expecting this big budget, and you're going all out as well with these visuals, which come with expectations. Because you've seen it all in the past with stuff like Watch Dogs when that first
Mm,
dropped with its trailer. Look how much that bit Ubisoft when that finally came out because it was nowhere near that par. And I hope it isn't that. I hope it's not going to be. I don't want it to be buggy either. Like Jesus Christ, no more bugs, please.
right. Yeah, and I would assume that's probably, I might look horrible and then completely incorrect a few months down the road, but I can't see that. I see that game coming out and being pristine, pristine quality in terms of the launch expectations for that. I don't think that thing will have a single bug.
Mm.
I mean, of course you'll have the weird one-off occurrence where this one guy ran into a thing where Sinuous foot glitched through the world and now he's, the console set on fire and but by and large, I think that thing is going to be really, really, really polished, pristinely polished.
Yeah, I just hope so. Because even Baldur's Gate 3, when it released, it's only just now getting a fix for deleting people's saves on Xbox. It's only affecting on Xbox. And it's because
It's
obviously they pushed it out the door before Christmas. They hit that
mm,
really tight deadline.
yeah,
And I just hope, yeah, that just sick of it. I'm sick of these put it out and then patch it later kind of things.
yeah. It's the absolute it's the plague of the AAA space. You see it way, way, way too much. And yeah, I don't think that I don't see that being the case with especially with Hellblade. I could see it more with Avowed. I don't think either game will fall into that totally, but I could see it more with Avowed than I could with
Yeah,
Hellblade.
yeah.
Just because Avowed's so systems driven, there's so many things that could go wrong. The domino effect, this leads to that, and that falls and breaks off a cliff. Like there's just so much that could go wrong there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are, and then they have Aura. Do you have any interest in Aura History Untold or whatever that game is?
I haven't even heard of
I
it.
don't either. Yeah, I don't know much about it whatsoever. So at least
So
we'll get an understanding of what it is.
yeah, I haven't seen. I didn't even know of its existence before this. Um, so yeah, it'll be good, interesting to see how it lands. And it's even more interesting to hear that they want to put some titles onto competing platforms.
Look at you with the segue there. That was smooth transition, brother. Yeah. Yeah, that's really you know what? I want to hear from you because like I said, I this is not like my home ecosystem. I do play on PlayStation more than I play on Xbox. So like for me, I'm like, okay, I sure. But a part of me also goes, okay, well then what is the point of buying the console? And just the mindset of fans where they're like, okay, this game is exclusive. I have a PlayStation. I want to play Avowed. It's exclusive. But how long will it be exclusive? Is it Hi-Fi Rush exclusive or is it Halo exclusive? You know, like so there is just this mixed messaging, and I think that could be detrimental overall because someone like me before the Series X generation where I didn't buy an Xbox One, if the roles were if I was back in that situation and I'm looking across, I'm like, damn, I really want to play a Val, but could I just wait a year and get it? Like I don't know if that's the messaging you want out there. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
So definitely with Hi-Fi Rush, I think that makes total sense. But Sea of Thieves has been out for years now. Um, I think this is the beginning of truly showing that Sony is going down one way and Microsoft is going down another. Sony has no interest in ever offering any title of theirs on an Xbox because it doesn't make sense to them. And it doesn't. You know, you want to make sure that of the consoles, you're the one that they want to go to. They're offering it to PC because they know how hard it is to convince somebody to come from a PC to a console. If they've jumped to a PC, a lot of them have spent a lot more money and they're less likely to go out and buy a console because they'll see it as a waste. Xbox has been having a lot of struggles with actually retaining player bases. Obviously, they leaked a lot of players moving over from 360 to Xbox One. I'd even say driving their player base away in certain aspects. I think it's worrying, but it feels like it's the beginning of them becoming more of a how to phrase it.
Third
They
party
don't care.
publisher?
They don't care where you're playing it as long as you're playing. They will just get a cut. They're a
Yeah.
business, so they know that they can't just steal 50% of Sony's player base. It's impossible. It's never going to happen. So instead of stealing it, just accommodate them. Okay,
Mm.
so you don't want to come over here. You can play it day one on Game Pass on an Xbox if you want to, or you can just wait a little bit and it will come out on your platform. Is what it feels like.
So I think that would and I think that my brain is just too old school to like understand that mindset entirely. I you laid it out perfectly and I get what you're saying, but there is sort of this thing where I go, okay, you're so you're getting into the space of just oh we're gonna be a publisher and we're gonna get our profit wherever we can. And so does that worry you as someone who's been in the Xbox ecosystem for so long? You have your 400,000 or 400,000 gamer score like does and I know that that's I'm not trying to say that that's the number one key thing in the world, but people do care about that. If they've
Yeah.
been in the ecosystem for so
Well,
long and they have
it's not even just the gamer score. You got to think all these digital purchases, like that would seriously hit your image. But the way I'm interpreting it is they've sat down and they're looking at how much in this day and age how much it costs to produce. It's no longer even triple A, it's quadruple A, they're saying now. These budgets have gone so sky high that eventually it's just like, okay, well, we just need to eat our own pride and just swallow it. Like we can only get this ideally amount of profit if we stick it on our platform and just keep it on our platform. It's why, because people were laughing at Microsoft years ago when they were the first ones to say, okay, it's no longer an Xbox exclusive, Microsoft exclusive, because it comes to
Hmm.
PC. That's worked out well for them. Even Sony's following suit with it. They're looking at it
Yeah.
and like, huh, that's actually not too bad of an idea. Um, so it feels like because a lot of people were also slating Spencer for saying that he's only saying he wants to release it on these other platforms to get these deals through. Clearly, there was a lot more honesty to that than they probably wanted to admit then. If he's saying, okay, he hasn't said it, obviously, it's the leaks and the rumors. But I think, yeah, it would be great for Sea of Thieves to get put on PlayStation. The multiplayer game, you want as many players in that ecosystem as possible to keep it as relevant for as long as possible.
Do you feel the same way about Hi-Fi Rush?
Hi-Fi Rush is just a strange one. I think that just shows, like, with what I said earlier, of how it just didn't hit on Xbox. Hardly anyone heard of it, so they're thinking, well, what have we got to lose? We keep it in Game Pass forever. It's always going to be there, and platformers sell really well on Switch and stuff like that. Little games like that, so that would sell really well on a Switch, I'm sure.
I mean, we're looking at a situation where if Xbox goes full in on this, they will, I mean, they're going to be undeniably I shouldn't say most profitable. They'll be undeniably, they will accumulate the most amount of money. They'll have the what would that be? Gross revenue. They'll have the highest gross revenue percentage from any publisher
Mm,
in in gaming after they acquired ABK. And I mean, it does make sense if the player base just isn't there for that console, then okay, we'll put it where everybody's at. And I mean, they have been open about wanting to be where all screens, Nintendo, PlayStation, TV,
yep,
they want Game Pass everywhere. And
yep.
I guess that could be sort of an extension of the conversation as to just okay, this isn't this doesn't seem like a Game Pass play. This seems to be an a la carte. You're able to go and purchase these games through Nintendo, through PlayStation, whatever the case may be. But I I, I find that a little bit weird as well, where I would have thought personally that the first move would have been okay, now you have Game Pass on a Switch, now you have Game Pass on a
I don't
PlayStation.
think. I think Switch may accommodate it. There's no way Game Pass will ever be on a PlayStation ever. It just doesn't make
So
sense from a Sony perspective. They would lose so much money
yeah,
letting that happen because you think of how many third-party games are available on Game Pass that are
right.
probably already on PlayStation, whatever their subscription model is, and it would just make it redundant. So then they'd be like, okay, I'll buy the PlayStation exclusives and then just have Game Pass for every other game. They would be taking major hits to the profit.
Because I always figured that maybe they would have like a streaming only version, or maybe they would have a version where it's nothing but first party content, and then that's available for like a lesser price or something like that. But yeah, I get it. It's hard to rewire that entire system. The only thing for me though is that this just seems so much more beneficial for Nintendo and for PlayStation and not I mean it is incredibly beneficial for Microsoft, but I'm struggling to find the big benefit for Xbox and that player base specifically. But I guess your point is it's like, oh well, that money will just be poured back into Xbox first party content that will then be released possibly a year later for other platforms.
I think they want the stream of revenue on an Xbox and then just take little bigger chunks from other platforms. Don't release Game Pass on PlayStation, give them Hi-Fi Rush. They have to pay the full price. So they take a nice chunk of that. So they're getting two types of revenue because the whole of what Sony was saying, it's not sustainable. And it appears to be sustainable, but maybe they just want both types of revenue. It would be nice to get big chunks and then monthly influxes of every single month they're paying money because yeah. That's the only way I can think about it. Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't really make sense.
You actually just hit on a point that I've never really thought about, is that it you could spin it to where Game Pass is the new exclusive, where it's like, oh yeah, you don't get Game Pass on a Switch and on a PlayStation. You got to come to Xbox or
Mm,
PC for that. And that's our platform. Game Pass is our platform, but we'll put out our content, but you got to go buy it everywhere
yeah,
else. You can get it for the 50. That's an interesting sort of
because they're
spin to.
they're they're still doing the $1 entry point, are they not, for new users?
I have no idea.
Which is a really easy thing to buy in this day and age.
Yeah. That's an interesting angle. I've never really looked at it in that regard. Hey, if you're a PlayStation owner, you're a Switch owner, you're paying for our content and you're getting it a year later. If you're
Yeah.
an Xbox player, PC player, $15 a month, whatever price you jump in at, you play it day one and you're good to go.
Mm. That's the only way I can think of it. That makes sense to me from a
Yeah.
business perspective. Right. So you said you had something?
Yeah, so I was jotting down as we were conversing there about the exclusivity of Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves and all the pending questions. I have a pending question for you, Mr.
Oh.
Looney. So I jotted down a few games here,
Mhm.
and I want to tie this into a game. And I want to ask you, of these games that I jotted down, which will stay exclusive? And I don't mean, okay, exclusive for a year. I mean, which of these will stay exclusive? Because, uh, well, we'll just get into that, and I'll let you kind of expand your thoughts more. Do you think
Right.
Starfield will ever come to PlayStation? It probably wouldn't be possible on Nintendo. Do you think it will ever come to a PlayStation console?
No.
No. Okay. Um, expand on that.
I'd,
Too big,
I,
too much.
I don't think it's too big. Oh, you mean like the pedigree of the game? I
Yeah,
think
too important.
I think they want to keep whatever main entries Bethesda's going to be pushing out moving forward. Like I don't see the next Fallout or the next Elder Scrolls. I think
Well, you
that's
you just knocked off two of my questions right there. So you think even though that IP has lived on other consoles before, you think moving forward that it's like, hey, we own this team, we're keeping their prestigious titles, we're keeping them exclusive to our
yeah,
platform.
yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and knock off a couple of other ones because I would assume you probably feel similarly. Gears of War, you don't think that'll ever come to a even a collection or anything like that. You don't think that could ever come to a PlayStation or Nintendo console?
I'll throw them a bone. I think Tactics could. I
Tactics.
think the spin-off games would. So like
Okay.
Halo Wars, for instance, I could see that going to like a PlayStation if they do
So
a Halo
you
Wars
don't
3.
th but you don't think if they released a Gears collection, it would only be on Xbox
Yeah,
and NPC, obviously.
yeah.
Okay. And same with Halo, you don't see a collection ever
No,
shouldn't say ever, but not anytime,
no, not in the foreseeable future, no.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and kind of knock off all the big franchises that 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 we know have a pedigree in history with Xbox like Forza and but let's go to the Outer Worlds 2. That's I think one of the more interesting ones because it's not a new IP, but it's kind of a new IP. The first one did
Yeah,
exist on PlayStation consoles, even though it was after the acquisition of Obsidian. And it felt a little bit weird that it wasn't exclusive at the time in 2019, but it was obviously in development, had been developed for PlayStation consoles as well as Xbox for years and years, so it made sense why it released there. But do you think the sequel will release on PlayStation consoles? I assume probably not immediately, but at all?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I think that's probably the bar as like because obviously it's not as big as a Fallout game, but they still make waves in the
So
gaming eco space.
let's stay with Obsidian. Do you think Grounded
Yeah,
will ever come to a
that'll get ported. I can guarantee that.
Pentiment?
I could see that on Switch, yeah.
I was just about to say, I think I could see that on Switch. All right. So let me go and transition to a really, really interesting one, at least in my opinion. Psychonauts 2. Or Psychonauts 3, my bad.
I was
Because
about to say,
Psychonauts 2
yeah, that's already on PlayStation and Switch.
that's yeah, that was my point.
Yeah,
Psychonauts 2 came out on PlayStation, and the first one, so it has history on other consoles. Does the third game, is that where we get the cutoff and that becomes exclusive? Is it because that feels in that similar Hi-Fi Rush vein to me, whereas it's
yeah.
kind of on that same double A-ish level?
I think I'll throw you a curveball back. I don't even know if there will be a Psychonauts 3.
Ooh.
Um, Look how long it took Tim Schafer to get Psychonauts 2 become a thing. I
I
don't
would
know if, at least in the near future, I'm not sure that they'd do a third game. Maybe like 20 years down the line or whatever is like a here's my final magnum opus before I
Yeah.
leave the industry.
I wonder, I think that Xbox or Microsoft provides some stability to Double Fine though. That's
Mm.
historically been, documented that studio has been through the ringer, with different publishing partners pulling out and this, that, and the other and searching for funding, and
Yeah,
they've
they
they've
were
kind of been through
originally with LucasArts when they or whatever it was, and they really didn't want to do any of their titles, which is crazy. Like, I think they heavily censored a lot of things with what was it called? What's that game? The biker game that they
uh
did.
was it Full Throttle?
Yeah, that was it. They
Yeah.
censored a lot of stuff with that, I believe, and they weren't really interested in what they had to do, which is crazy to think about, considering what the pedigree of games that they accomplished to make, especially back then.
Did you watch that documentary, Psych Odyssey, that
No, I need to
released?
watch it.
It's so good. I binged the whole damn thing in like two. I think it's like 30 plus hours. I binged the whole damn thing in like two. It is addictive. It's so fascinating. But okay, so you're saying Psychonauts 3, you could see that not releasing within the next 10-15 years.
Yeah, it
Okay.
feels that way at least.
What about Doom Year Zero? Eternal 2016, both on PlayStation. Does Year Zero? Is that exclusive?
If it has a multiplayer component, this is where we need to like. If it's fully single player, I don't see it landing on another console. If they want to push, maybe like let's bring arena shooters back and take another crack at that, and they fully go in with it. I get the feeling
Okay.
like it would release day one on Xbox and then do what they're doing with Hi-Fi Rush and maybe release it like a year down the line and
So
test the waters.
I think this exercise in general for me was more I wanted to pick your brain about where where the bar is being set, where the cutoff is at, and just kind of because that's the thing that, like we talked about leading into the conversation. That's the curious thing about all this to me is like, where are we setting the bar?
Mm,
What's exclusive? What is not exclusive? And I think that getting your read on all of this, it honestly kind of lines up with what has been happening, how they've been approaching exclusivity. And so, yeah, I think it's fascinating in general to look at their slate of games, and especially with the information that we have now about Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves, trying to predict where things could land.
mm.
I I'll throw this last one out at you. What about South of Midnight? That once again seems on that Psychonauts 3 Hi-Fi Rush. That seems somewhere in that realm.
Yeah, I could see that dropping as like a year down the line title for other platforms. Yeah,
Right.
but it all
Okay.
depends on as well of how big of a wave these smaller titles make
Right.
because I think Ori was
Right.
a side by side Switch release. I don't think it was later, in my memory. and that was like,
I I think Ori was a little bit later. I don't think
was
it
it a
launched
little
day
bit?
and date.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. I'm not 100% sure.
But I was shocked that that even landed on a Switch. It's a perfect game for the Switch, don't get me wrong, but like it seemed, especially how early on with all the acquisitions, it was like you want to keep these genres locked down your console. It felt like
Yeah.
that just showed that they were already flirting with the idea of getting their fingers in as many pies as possible, as it were.
Well, yeah, and it's like As Dusk Falls is releasing on PlayStation this year, which was, technically first party, second party, whatever you want to call it. And it's yeah, it's an interesting time to see this. And I guess like you said, it's sort of always been kind of happening with your Minecrafts and with your Oris, and there has been some precedent set
Hmm.
for this in the past, but it's so interesting. I want to like be able to psychoanalyze, pun intended. I want to be able to really like analyze what goes into the decision making of what stays exclusive, what goes multi-platform. I wish we could. I think. Do you think that we'll add that into the questions? Do you think that gets brought up at the direct?
Or what do you mean?
Do you think like there's any? Do you think that we get a clear message about why Hi-Fi Rush will go to
Oh
other
no,
platforms? Why?
that'll be all under wraps.
Okay.
As I said, the thing that I'm thinking as to what goes into making these decisions with them having all the obviously data is how quickly the game stagnates. Well, like if hardly anybody is playing Hi-Fi Rush now a year down the line, very, very unlikely that them numbers are going to go up a year from now. They're just going to either settle there or even plummet further. So if they put a decent amount of money in, they want to recoup as much as they can get.
Hmm.
So
So you don't think that at this direct, you don't think there will be an announcement of Hi-Fi Rush going to other platforms, and you also don't think we'll get any clarity as to why, certain games are going to different platforms. You think they'll kind of keep that under the
I think
radar and then just
they might announce that it's going to, but I don't think they'll give reasoning behind it.
hmm,
But then again, I'm also torn on that even because it's like you want the Xbox Direct to be solely focused on what's going to benefit Xbox. Are you going to
correct.
really want to drop that and be like, yeah, and here you go, PlayStation players, Hi-Fi Rush?
Yeah. And I think that's why all of this is so fascinating. It especially I think coming from our perspective, which I think we're in somewhat similar camps. Honestly, which is surprising to me, if I had to read the room here, I think you're a little bit more understanding than I am. And you're more heavily entrenched in the ecosystem, which is really fascinating to me. You seem to be more of the mindset of like, yeah, let it kind of go and live in other places. And there's something about my brain where it's like, no, fucking lock that shit down. They don't put anything on your
It's
platform. You keep your stuff on your. I don't know why
it's
I
it's what
have that
happens.
mindset.
It's what happens when you've been an Xbox fan for so long. You know that they don't sit and just they're always trying to do something. They don't sit
Mm,
still. And a lot of the times it burns them, like them wanting to push Connect, them
right.
wanting to do this. They're here, we'll make the Xbox one for everything. It's going to be the one media piece that you need in your room, and then yeah, it did not work out. Um, so they're always looking. They don't want to sit still because they know that that's just as bad as, making a mistake at times. But to me, it feels like, as I said, I don't. It's a new era of gaming. They're not looking to compete between each other. That's
Hmm.
not. That doesn't seem to be their goal. They're just like, okay, they're PlayStation players. They know that. So you're so deeply rooted in your consoles and your platforms because you spent. There's you got to think of how many people have been there from the start, like 2006, and then they bought these digital games. They want to these are their libraries and stuff. You think if you'd never switch a Steam library and stuff when you're on a PC and stuff like that. That's people have been building them for over like decades. So I think they
So
just want to dip into the other platforms.
let me ask you this then. I know that this has been talked about forever. Does does Xbox stay in the console space? And in terms of like long term, because we know about the 2026 rumored new Xbox console generation essentially, that they're trying to kind of break this mold of launching together the PS6 and the Xbox Series Y. Like they don't really seem to have that intention of launching together again and kind of breaking the trend of what a generation even is. But
Mm.
do you think that Xbox is in the console business for the long term? Do you think that if PlayStation has a console, Xbox will always have a console as well? Or do you think there could be a period where Xbox pulls out of the console market before anybody else?
So it's something that I've given thought about, um, that you've mentioned it many times because it is worrying. Like there's so many aspects that show that they don't really because they did the backwards compatibility thing, but all a majority of their Xbox One games and stuff like that don't have all the data on the disc a lot of the time. But you're saying you want to preserve things, but you're putting out discs that because I've purchased stuff of Amazon, you put it in, it's like, yeah, there's 50 megabytes worth of data. You download the rest, and it's just like, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah.
And then pushing with the subscription model. This is probably 20 years from now, may look back on this comment and look really stupid. I don't think there'll be plastic boxes we're putting stuff in 20 years.
Yeah, I
I don't see it. It's going so quickly with them pushing for digital distribution. Subscription models are through the roof. And with what you said, will there always be a PlayStation and an Xbox console competing? I think Sony will hold out longer than Microsoft, but I think Microsoft
mm.
will be the first to leave the traditional console space. I think they will redefine it.
Do you think that do you think the ecosystem will continue to exist and you think your digital library you'll still have access to that, your achievements you'll still have access to that?
The achievements, I think, will pull over. The library is a really touchy thing because what people don't understand is like even the discs that you own, you don't own them. You just have the right to technically own it.
Right.
It's a license at the end of the day. And the reason they're running into so many roadblocks with this digital things and things being pulled from marketplaces and stuff is because licenses expire. You could have one song on a game, and if you don't renew that license, you can be sued out the arse for not doing that.
Yeah.
And we're
Which
seeing that with the 360 this year. That's the reason why a lot of it's shutting down. They're seeing a dwindling amount of players. Um, so it's just not profitable to keep the servers up. It's unfortunate. We're going to lose a lot of games because there was a huge amount of digital only games, and
yes.
they're just gonna disappear. And the only thing that will give me a little bit of hope is if in 3 years' time I can still boot that 360 up and there's still an infrastructure in place. Like, okay, I can't purchase the games, but if it still syncs up with whatever current generation they've got, so I can go on, pick a 360 disc in, play a game, pop an achievement, and that gets transferred to my current profile, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
I'll
Which
accept that pill to swallow.
I think that's the preservation argument in general is just people are like, man, if you can just fucking put the damn data on the disk, it'll be preserved.
Mm.
And if all this shit shuts down, as long as we can boot up the game and the data is on the disk, like you still have access to the content. And it's so frustrating that these publishers, especially Microsoft, where you have more money than God, and you also push the backwards compatibility argument, and it's it's really frustrating that I, that they don't have that same commitment to their current product because if you really are pure intended and are trying to make sure that the player has access to this content for the long haul, then you got to be thinking about future backwards compatibility as well.
No,
And
instead of just
the,
leaving it to the last second like they've done every generation. This is
yeah,
what they've done every single time. There was mild backwards compatibility from original Xbox games that you could run on the 360, but a lot of them ran like shit. Like I
yeah.
remember playing the Lord of the Rings, the Third Age.
Hmm.
You could technically go through and play that entire game on a 360, but it had major technical issues. You go near a chest and it would flashbang your screen like that.
Damn. Well, so I mean, yeah, I think I see your overall, I see where you're coming from overall on these various topics of the exclusivity argument and then the long-term future for Xbox, which once again is just that's sort of the angle that I'm because you've been achievement hunting since 360, late 360 era.
Yeah, they even cut it off. They give you like badges and stuff. They obviously stopped games with gold. Don't know if you remembered
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
They gave a badge and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been probably since 2007, I believe,
Y-
2008, maybe.
Yeah. And
A very long time.
you're still actively in it to
Yeah,
win it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Currently doing Yakuza Zero at the moment, and that's brutal. Trying to 100% that.
What are you at now, percent wise?
I, it's so slow going up because you have to do every. You didn't play Yakuza, but you played
Lost
Judgment, right?
Judgment.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have like the mini games and stuff that you got to do. You got to
Yeah.
master the mini games. You got to master
Right.
every single aspect of that game. And yeah, it's probably about 18% overall completion because you do like 4 hours worth of like progress and it goes up by like a percent. Like
Yeah.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
It's funny because like until this little, PlayStation wrap up, which I don't even know when it started, but the first time I was really aware of it was last year,
Mm.
2022, and and um and then again this year. And I've slowly I don't have the bug yet of the achievement hunting and the trophy hunting and all that, but I will say I have been doing some dabbling with the achievement hunting. We talked about that offline
Yeah, you're
of just going back
slaying
and
me
playing.
this month. You're like almost 4,000 G. I was like, Jesus Christ.
I'm just going back and I'm playing like some of my favorite sports games of
Mm.
all time. And like I had a NBA Live '06 is probably my favorite basketball game ever. And I like the old version, the PS2 original Xbox version more because you have like different freestyle moves you can pull off and stuff. But I had the 360 copy later. I was like, let me boot this up. I've just been in a really nostalgic mood lately. And when I looked at the achievements, I was like, oh my God, you can get a whatever 1,000 gamer score
Yeah,
in an hour with this
yeah.
thing. And so I've just been going back and I haven't been, I don't even think I got the 1,000 gamer score in that, but I've been going back and playing some of my favorite sports games of all time. So playing like new sports games, just kind of, I'm very much in a nostalgic sports game mood right now. Like I'm playing NBA Home Court for the first time ever right now, going through and unlocking some achievements on that. Gonna try to get through that little story mode that they have going on there. Played Madden '08, which is, most people would consider Madden 05, '04, and '08 to be the best Madden games ever. I have a lot of nostalgia for '05 and '04. I didn't play as much of '08, so I booted that up and I was like, oh my God, this controls 100 times better than the modern Madden game. So I don't know. I've been in a really weird sports video game phase
You
to
know,
start 2024.
we also forget as well, because obviously, I wasn't like an NBA fan or NFL. Like FIFA's really big over here in the UK. How hard
Hmm.
them soundtracks slap. Like the
Ooh,
menu
boy.
themes of them games, when you boot it up, you're like, Jesus Christ, this takes me back.
Dude, absolutely. I played through, well, I always have a GM mode going on SmackDown versus Raw 2007, and I booted up SVR 07 and I just went and finished the GM mode. I only had a couple months left on it. And I mean, that soundtrack, the what is it, 3 Days Grace and the all those little butt rock bands from back in the mid 2000s. It was just it's such a warm, cozy,
Yeah,
nostalgic blanket hearing that music and playing those classic games. Like it I really it is such a great holiday endeavor to dive into just things you're super nostalgic about and hearing the music and remembering the mechanics and all that. It's really it's a delightful experience, man.
yeah, kicks ass. Absolutely.
So what you been playing other than Yakuza?
Oh, well, so they obviously do achievement hunting and stuff, but I don't do it for every game. That would drive me completely to insanity.
Let,
So,
let me cut you off real quick because that's how I always feel with story games where it's like to me the objective in a story-based game and a narrative game is like the narrative.
yeah,
And if my brain is so damn I have a friggin' Pavlovian response. I'm like a little dog going everywhere all over the place. If I start doing that, I won't pay attention to the damn story. So I can't really do like the trophy hunting, achievement hunting for the story games because I got to focus on the damn narrative. But go ahead, my bad.
yeah, that's interesting. A lot of people break them up, though, which is what I usually do. It's like I played through Yakuza every single game, didn't even touch the mini games for the most part, and the side
Oh
stories. I was
wow.
just in it for the story. I was like, I want because they're funny and they're interesting, but it really does. You're in the middle of this gritty crime drama, and then you have the stupidity of their little side stories, and it's like, look, I get like this is funny and stuff, but this is really getting in the way of the story.
Right.
So I can understand that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
But
what
a
else
lot
you
of
been playing, man?
the crew, does it have
Okay.
this server shutdown is this year? So I wanted to get the story done for that, which I managed to do. It was just I enjoy racing games more than anything, really. So
Right.
having a little bit of story to go with it was all right. Vanquish on the 360.
Okay, the first person shooter.
Yeah, the third
Mm,
person done by
Oh, is it
Platinum
third person?
Games. Yeah, Platinum Games.
Okay.
You have
What
your
am
like
I
little
thinking of?
rocket. You have your little rocket legs that you can just slide.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about. I know
yeah,
what you're talking about.
yeah. And ooh, this is the most recent one that I did finish, and it'll be interesting to see how you the Evil Within one.
Oh yeah. What you think? You didn't
It
like
ain't
it?
it. It ain't it.
It
Like the
two is a
Evil
lot
Within
better.
2 is so good.
Yeah.
I was playing through the Evil Within 1 and I was like, this is fun in parts, but it just wasn't doing anything for me.
Yeah.
I just felt spoiled by what the Evil Within 2 did, and it upsets me that it didn't get any extra content. Because the Evil Within 1, because I'm playing through the DLCs of it, it got two Kidman story expansions. And you also got to play as the
Right.
safe enemy guy.
Right. So you played through the Evil Within 2 before one?
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, oh my God, I can't imagine that experience because the Evil Within 2 is so
Because
clean, man.
I played the Evil Within 1 when it came out initially for about an hour.
Oh, okay.
And that was when it had it had a letterboxing camera fixed, and you couldn't turn
Yes.
it off, and it was so frustrating. And it was just, yeah, I couldn't click with it. And I was like, maybe I'm just not like a horror game guy. So I put it down, and that was on the 360. And then The Evil Within 2 came out, and I was like, man, that looks interesting. I ended up watching like 2 hours of playthrough of it, and I was like, this looks a hell of a lot better than the first game, and ended up just biting the
Yeah.
bullet on it. And yeah, such an incredible game.
It's so freaking good, man. The Evil Within 1, I love it, but it's rough. It's really, really rough. And it's challenging as hell at
Yeah,
certain points.
yeah.
And it for no good reason. And then other points is absolute breeze, an absolute cakewalk.
Mm.
But there's something terrifying. That game spooked me the hell out. I don't know what it was about just like the little tripwires that you're having to slowly crouch around and
Oh
go up
yeah,
to,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
that man, that got me, dude. I remember at one point I was walking around the little whatever hospital area where you can go and get your upgrades and stuff. And I would see like the little red glowing dots at the bottom of the hallway. And I was like crouching up to him, trying to disable him and stuff. It's like, no, you're safe here. You're in a little safe zone. It really got to me, man. That was a wild experience.
yeah,
I I love s certain parts of the Evil Within, but the Evil Within 2 is on a totally different level. Totally agree with you there.
yeah. Been a blast going back to it then and filling in
Yeah.
the story pieces and stuff. Very jarring though, because I hate it. I said the same thing about Elix. The changing of the main character's voice really, really drives me up the
Mm.
wall.
With
He has a
Sebastian.
Yeah, he has a completely different voice, and it was just like this isn't Sebastian. But that's probably how people felt when they booted up two, because obviously they would have played one first and been like, "Who the
Right.
hell's this guy?" But yeah, I feel like the second game's voice actor did a lot better of a job as well.
You finished the second one, correct?
Yeah,
That ending, dude. That's
mm,
the thing that's just like it leaves me where I'm like, man, we got something here. We got
exactly.
something here. We got to
Where's
go
the
back to
rest of the story? Come on,
yeah,
finish it.
not to spoil anything, but man, I gotta see that yeah, gotta
Yeah,
see where she goes and what goes
mm,
on with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
And
that
yeah, other than that, they're the things I finished. And then what I'm dabbling in is Inquisitor Martyr, which is like a Diablo style game in the 40k
hmm,
universe. And I've given Lords of the Fallen another shot
uh-oh.
after Lies of P. It's so frustratingly almost good. Like the game is so close to. I said this to a friend who's like a big Souls-like fan. It's so close to being better than Dark Souls. But it
Oh
just lets
wow.
its yes, exactly. That's how much praise. Like it's a really incredible thing that they've managed to accomplish, but they've just fallen flat.
And you're talking about Lords of the Fallen.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. I know the stuff I saw about the world swapping was sick as hell.
yeah. It's a great feat, but it's really frustratingly utilized. So like you think of how Souls combat is usually pretty frustrating when
Yeah.
you're being beaten by like six enemies at once. But then think of having one enemy in that group where you can't interact with him. He's invulnerable because he's got a parasite from the other world. So you need to stop fighting, pull that parasite out with a different. It's just these extra steps to combat are just unnecessary. You don't need this. This is
Hmm.
overthinking the formula that just works. It's why Lies of P just worked. It yes, at a base level it kept things simplistic, but it did them things so well. It was enjoyable. There was never a frustrating point in that game.
You finished Lies of P?
Yeah.
I heard about the ending while I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to MinMax and they were talking about it as like a best moment. Dude, that ending sounds so sick. Unbelievably
It
sick.
is oh it's interesting to see where they go next because they have
Yeah.
an unlimited amount of potential now by just being like, you thought this is all we had in our back pocket? Have some of this.
Shout out to the public domain.
Yep.
Hell yeah. So yeah, dude, I hate that you can't pause those damn games. I want to check which, to be totally honest, just I I gotta lower my damn blood pressure before I hop into any any Souls games, man. I can't take it. My anxiety levels can't take it. But that's fascinating to hear that Lords of the Fallen is like right there, but just falls
Yeah.
short in a few instances that really bring it down.
Yeah. Really unfortunate. And then because you don't really watch movies, do you?
I don't
TV
at
shows.
all. No.
I have a recommendation then because
Okay, let me write that down.
the Resident Evil animated films.
Oh, I've watched all them
Oh,
bitches.
have you seen them? Oh,
Yeah.
even the newest one, Death
I,
Island.
I I got a copy of it. I haven't opened it yet. I just got a copy of it. I haven't seen it yet. And I also
So,
let me be fair. So I've watched let me grab 'em. I've watched all of the so like Damnation, Degeneration. These are the live action ones.
yep,
And okay, here we go. And Vendetta.
yep,
So these
Vendetta.
ones, I've checked these ones out,
Okay.
and then I haven't watched the I
There's
watched
it.
the
There's Infinite Darkness, which was like a free episode TV show one. Did you check
okay,
that out?
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Oh,
I
okay.
know that they have the one on Netflix, the
Yeah,
TV
that's.
show, and I've
Oh no,
which one's that?
the live action TV show you're talking about, or the animated one?
The animated TV show on Netflix.
Yeah, that's Infinite Darkness. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that is the one where I began the first, I think I've watched two episodes, but I need to go back and finish that one and then Death Island. So those,
Mm.
I've watched the old ones, but I haven't watched the two latest ones.
Man, they're incredible.
They're really
They're
good, dude. Though I
really
love the
good.
old ones.
They're really good. Each release closer to it being the newest, it just got better and better and better. Like that in the Death Island one is really, really good as well. And the thing that shocked me the most is that they don't seem to be retconning like anything that happened in the games. These are happening alongside the games. Like they reference points that have happened in like Resident Evil 6, which you think they would want to distance themselves to Resident Evil 6, but he's like, no, like peers and stuff he brings up about losing the
Yeah.
unit and stuff like that. And that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy to see because I've always wanted some of that lore filled in for Leon after four, and
Mm.
it's cool. Like I don't remember which movie it was, but where they go and he's like a drunk at the bar, and they do really touch up a lot of the lore for Resident Evil in these anime films. So you watch the full Netflix series?
Of the like the past weeks, I watched from Damnation all the way up to the newest one. I just binged
Oh,
it.
so you've been
I
oh
binged all of them.
nice. Dude, hell yeah. That is so awesome. They have some crazy action sequences in
Yeah,
those the
really high
older
budget.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome, dude. I love those. To be totally honest, I have a soft spot for the live action films as well. Some of them.
Yeah, the Miller, whatever her name is, Jovovich films, they're
Yeah.
really good. I enjoyed them for what they were, as long as it's considered separated, like, and isn't, yeah, it's its own thing, their own
Well,
spin.
if you look, you remember the laser scene in the first Resident Evil movie?
Yeah,
They brought that into separate ways.
yeah.
Yeah. So they definitely you know, they look at some of that stuff and like, hey, that's pretty sick. We can borrow from that a little bit. See, I definitely got to watch those the Netflix and the Death Island though, because I dig the shit out of the anime Resident Evil
Yeah,
movie
I was shocked
verse.
at how good they were. It was incredible. It was just like, because I watched a few of them and it was just like, these are pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, they're not bad at all. I really I, the only thing for me is because I of course, you got the games and they're connected and all that. I do wish that, and I understand why they don't like directly pick up after the games, but I wish that connective tissue was just a little bit stronger. You know what I mean? Like I wish you could see some of the events from the game in the anime series and then transfer over to where we're at now. I don't think they might have done it, but I don't think I would just like to see like the RPD in the animated form and shit. I just think that would be so cool.
I think the coolest thing that they could do, maybe you'll disagree with me on this, but like if you're gonna make like a more expensive edition, because they've done bundles in the past where like Mortal Kombat comes with the Mortal Kombat film, it'd be really
Mm.
cool if they could incorporate it on the disc to be like, okay, so you have Resident Evil 3's remake, you buy Resident Evil 4's remake, but it also bundles in that film into the menu, embed it on the disc so that you can choose to watch that, get that missing gap and be like, oh, so
Yeah.
that's what's happened, and that's He's gone from a rookie cop to being a complete badass. What the hell? Like, where's the in between?
Exactly. Yeah, it would just be it would be great to have that seamless kind of
Yeah,
connective tissue between all of them. But yeah, no, they're really good. I gotta watch those
mm.
last two adaptations or not adaptations. I guess just anime
Yeah, they're very good.
films.
Recommend it.
Oh, dude, I is that everything you've been watching and playing for the most part?
Yeah. The rest of the stuff isn't worth mentioning. Like I was very dis. I've watched one of the newer Terminator films, and that was very bad. So
Was it?
yeah, Genesis wasn't wasn't good.
Did you play that Terminator game, the Nacon is it the people who made the Robo
Resistance,
I think so. The
Terminator.
people who made the
Yeah,
RoboCop.
the first outing because they've re-released it with an extra mode because it got a DLC on PlayStation, which I haven't checked out. But
Was
yeah,
that really solid?
100% is the first one. The first.
Wow. Okay, so
So
it was good.
yeah, it was surprisingly very good. I haven't tried RoboCop out yet though, but that looks good as well.
I dug the hell out of RoboCop. I'm gonna go pick up that Resistor Resistance or Resist what is it?
Terminator
Resistance?
Resistance, yeah,
I'm
I believe.
gonna grab a copy of that because I know they got a PS5 copy of it. And Series X, I believe now. So I'll definitely go and grab a physical of
Yeah,
that and play through it. I love a good old school single player. What is it, 10 hours or so for the
but
story?
for the whole 100%, it was like 9 hours in
Oh
total.
wow.
So
Wonderful.
very, very short and sweet game. Nice palate
Yeah.
cleanser.
Dude, speaking of nostalgia, I I played through Vice City and San Andreas over the holiday break. Those are like my two big, really good, and that's a big reason why I've jumped back into sports games. It's like, let me get a little palate cleanser. It was a lot. And I I don't I don't want to disparage Vice City. Vice City's good, but man, oh man, it's crazy to jump from Vice City to San Andreas like
Yeah,
immediately, and
yeah,
you're like, oh, this is on a totally different level. Like, 8 degrees. Like it's 100 times better than Vice City, in
yeah.
my opinion.
We
Vice,
take Rockstar for granted, really. A lot of people because you just think, like you said, that massive jump because you think you went back and played GTA 4. Was it last year, I believe? If
yeah,
you were to
last
play
year, yep.
GTA 5 right after that, you would be like, Jesus Christ, even that is a massive jump. Like
Yeah.
they come with so much more with each release.
Yeah, I was planning on playing through the entire series. I know I'm doing it in a weird order because I didn't play three before Vice City, and I want to play. I'm gonna try to play five because I haven't played through five in 6, 7 years or so. So I would like to jump back into five before six to once again see
Yeah.
that transition. In the same way with Vice City to San Andreas, and now with four to five, and then from five to six. I think it'd be cool just to have all of that in mind when discussing the games. But man, oh man, San Andreas, I there's one I the little gang territory takeover part at the end of the game really sucked, and that would bring it down a little bit for me. But outside of that, I don't even know where to begin. I think that I didn't have a single complaint other than that. I think that is close to perfect as I've possibly experienced in the video game space. It's unbelievable, man. San Andreas is unbelievable.
Which version did you play? Are you playing the definitive edition versions?
Yeah, playing the
Oh,
definitive edition.
damn.
It's Vice City, I'll say, had tons of issues. The AI, the enemy AI, companion AI, the AI was god awful in Vice City, and it was glitchy as hell. There were multiple times where characters would just get stuck, have to go back and reboot the system. Like it was a lot of issues. San Andreas, I never ran into anything like that. Played through the entire thing. They added checkpoints which weren't in the
Yeah,
original.
that's an incredible addition that needed to be added.
It made
That's
it
good.
so much smoother. It was a really, really smooth experience. And yeah, the scale of it is insane. And then being able to do that and keep keep the essence of what GTA 3 created, but at a much larger scale. It was wild, man.
Yeah, I need to
And
finish them off. myself with the definitive edition.
Yeah.
I've started each of them and then I haven't committed.
They're
Um,
fun. They're fun to just dabble with too.
mm,
You know, they're fun to just kind of pop in and be like, oh, okay, Liberty City, Vice City, Los Santos. But that's the thing is like San Andreas is Los Santos, Vegas, and
yeah,
even a mission in Liberty
incredible.
City.
Yeah, incredible amount of content in that game.
It's
Crazy.
wild, man. But that's been really the main. Those have been the main two things that I've played through. I played through Avatar. That was, a little bit later. That was in December.
And how did you feel about that?
It was okay, man. It wasn't bad. It was just like
I've heard
I
it's
don't know.
pretty, but it's pretty shallow.
Yeah, and it's not the world is pretty, but like the character models don't look great. It's
No.
I don't know. I wasn't. It is the world is beautiful and the vibrant kind of color palettes but it's the world of Pandora. Of course, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's I don't know. I wasn't totally blown away by the visuals in that game. It was impressive, but to me, like Forbidden West and Forza Horizon 5, that's still the pinnacle of what we've seen in terms of graphical fidelity this generation, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's why it surprised me that they paired up with Ubisoft of all people. Because you think that they would have gone with a little bit of a smaller scope and made it really, really breathtaking across all aspects.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of the world building, I think Ubisoft knocked it out of the park there. It's just the Ubisoft, and I worry about this with Star Wars Outlaws. They can't tell a damn story.
No, no,
It's
that is true because
crazy.
their stories do land pretty flat. When they've adopted this open world model, it's really hard to tell a story.
And they do the same thing every time. They start off really strong, punchy, and it's like, oh man, I'm actually going to get invested into a Ubisoft story. And then it devolves into just nothingness. And I don't know. It really bummed me out because I was into the story at the beginning, escaping the little facility, and there were some aspects of it that I was interested in. Then it devolved into straight up boredom with the story. The character models at first are really presented well, good cutscenes, high production value, and then it just gets into dead-eyed characters looking at you, lip sync not lining up, and yeah, it was a bummer, but it was still kind of a fun enough Far Cry-ish loop. But yeah,
I'm glad I didn't pull the trigger on that one because it was one of the more expensive games leaving December.
$70, man.
Yeah,
70 damn bucks. But I'm eager to see what they can crank out with Outlaws. I'm not a total Ubisoft hater, but I do understand a lot of people's gripes with the company. I just wish that, like you said, they could scale back a little bit and just give us a solid story. Why can't we just get a 15-hour game with a good story? It's crazy.
yeah, it's what they aimed to do with Mirage, and it really didn't hit. Like I
I,
played like 2 hours of Mirage, and I was like, this is just dull in every aspect. Like you've also chosen a character that wasn't really all that interesting to begin with, because it's a character from Valhalla that, no one
dude, I'm
wanted
to
his story.
Yeah, dude, I'm totally with you. I did the same thing. I played Mirage for a few hours. I was like, I do not care about anything that I'm doing right now, like at all. And yeah, it's really, really weird that they Odyssey, I loved the story, but even that, it was like at times I'm just going through the motions here. But I don't know. I I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for Star Wars Outlaws because that looks so cool. Just please tell a mildly compelling story with that game, and I'll be hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, if they can even get 30% of what Respawn manages with Jedi Survivor, I'll be
Right.
happy. The
It,
bar is not that high, Ubisoft. Come on, meet it.
I'm the same way because like the features that are added in there, the speeder bikes and the flying around in space and the maybe dog fighting, the decision making, like these are things that aren't in the Jedi series, the Respawn's Jedi series. So it's
Mm.
like I want to see that in a Star Wars game, playing as a scoundrel, more of a kind of if you want to be a little bit more on the evil end, you can do that. And those things I think make Star Wars the universe so interesting. And I I want that, but if you can't tie it all together with a cohesive narrative, like nobody's really gonna care, you know.
Mm,
So I'm hoping that they can nail the story.
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, man, that has been that's been my full little list there of what I've been playing, and of course my sports games. Been binging my sports games.
Yeah, your first foray into achievement hunting, by the sounds of it. I'll come
Yeah,
online later on and you'll be like, yeah, I got 8,000 G now. I'm unstoppable.
I haven't put out the video yet, but I want my goal is to get 50K achievement score. And I know everybody looking at the difference here. My guy with 400K, I'm trying to get to 50K. Uh, but to be fair, I jumped in this is my first generation with an Xbox console, so I'm playing catch up a little bit. But yeah, I was at 25K at the start of the year, 26, 25. And I want to get to 50. I want to strive for 25K in a year. What's the highest you've hit in a year?
Oh, if you give me a moment, I'll be able to dig that information out. Because I use a
Okay.
site called True Achievements, which I've mentioned many,
Okay.
many times. And
I'll
it's really good.
I'll ramble while you look it up.
Yeah.
So for me, I I think I'm at like three, the overall score. I'm in the silver category. Like there's bronze, silver, and gold for PlayStation. I'm in the silver category. But the thing about achievements, man, is they're so fun because it's not based on like any sort of platinum. And I don't like playing games like that. I don't really want to get everything. I just want to do what I'm doing and have it all add up, which I guess it kind of does that with trophies as well. But I don't know, there's just something fun to me about seeing, okay, well, that's 50 points, that's 30 points. It all slowly adds up. And yeah, I don't know. PlayStation will always be my go-to platform because, like you talked about earlier, with just the weird DRM issues with Xbox and my physical preference, that I will always gravitate towards picking the physical disc up for PlayStation. So that kind of hurts my achievement hunting a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna really give it a go in 2024 and try to level on up to 50K, which I guess would be 24 or 25K. I don't remember exactly what I was at the end of
Yeah,
2023, but
roughly, I believe. Yeah. Because I mean, you're in the 30s now.
yeah, I'm in the
So
30s
it will
now.
take a lot of time to dig it out. But roughly, I would say if I'm getting 4K a month, that's good. Like 3 to 4,000 a month. You obviously
Okay.
multiply that by 12 and stuff, and
So yeah, around
about
what would that be around?
30-ish. So about what your current account basically, if I can get your current account's worth on a yearly basis, a little bit
Okay.
more maybe, then I'm feeling pretty good. I actually have
God,
I'm trying
dog.
to hit 500 before next year, which I don't think I'll be hitting.
Have you ever had a month where you get to like 10K?
I think my highest was probably about 12,000 at one point,
Damn,
and that was
12,000 a
like
month.
going as hard as possible, like playing Telltale games and stuff like that. But
Right.
I don't do that as much anymore. Like it came in waves of like because it's very addictive. If it grips you, it grips you, and you think, oh, I want to 100% this, and then it I took a step back and was like, I'm not playing games
Right.
to enjoy the game. It's to hunt the thing. So now I try and reserve it as much as possible to. It's like the Yakuza thing. I'm in no
Right.
rush to get the 100%, but I want to get that 100%.
It's funny that you bring up um Telltale because I just played through. I forgot to bring it up, but I played through Jurassic Park, the Telltale game. I because I and this really wasn't. This didn't have much to do with the achievement hunting, but I think it might have kind of spawned my interest in it a little bit more. It's just seeing those damn things pop so much,
Yeah,
and it was that I talk about on the channel when discussing the Saber Interactive, the Jurassic Park survival game. I have always said like, oh, this looks like it might be the first good single player Jurassic Park game, but I never played through the Telltale game. And going back and playing through it, that's awesome. That game
yeah,
is really, really fun. It's kind of
yeah.
like
It's a
Until
really
Dawn,
fun
but
game.
Telltale.
Yeah,
Yes, I'll never disparage that title again. Saber Interactive, the Saber Interactive game would be the second good single player
They have
Jurassic
that to
Park
beat
game.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, and that I'm not even joking. That's kind of a high bar.
Mm.
That they do some pretty cool shit in the Jurassic Park universe.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, they had a bit of a downward trend though with that recent release. What was it called?
The Expanse wasn't great.
Yeah, 'cause I
Wasn't
purchased it on
great.
sale and it was like I purchased it, bit the bullet on sale, and then I remember you saying about, oh, it wasn't all that good. I was kind of disappointed. I was like, oh man,
Did you get to episode 3?
I haven't played it yet. That's what I mean. It was buying it on a sale, and I was like, oh, I was probably gonna try it around the holidays, and then you dropped the opinion on it of it being not too good, and I was like, I'll waste my time with something else.
I'll say this. If you ever do want to boot it up, try to get to episode 3. And if you're not into it after the end of episode 3, then it's not going to be for you. The end of episode 3 was kind of a make or break moment, and it made the game enough. It made it interesting enough for me to want to see it through. And then the end, I was like, eh. But that there was a cool moment in episode 3. So I would encourage people to at least try to get to the end of episode 3 because there is a pretty cool reveal.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
But yeah, dude, that's all I've been playing, man. Did you have anything else that you wanted to go over, or is that episode 1 in the books?
No, I think that's enough rambling. I think
Hell yeah.
leave them wanting more, not less.
The rambling has been achieved, my friend.
Exactly. There we go. We need a little pop-up achievement notification when it happens.
Yeah. That'd be cool. At the end of each episode,
Yeah.
rambling and shit. That's sick. That'd be sick.
So yeah. Um, as we said though, it's not going to be a regular thing on like a weekly basis. This will be when, when we can find the time together.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, this is fucking to me, this is so much more fun than doing the solo stuff that I do. And not to put that down, I love making that stuff too. But especially, and I've told you this 100 times, your knowledge is like, I mean, it's like a fucking to me. I'm like, oh, this and this and this, because I know with you, I can pretty much go anywhere I want with the conversation, and you'll be able to pull something out of it in a new thread that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna hop onto that one and hop on it. So it's super fun, especially
Yeah,
because I am new to
absolutely.
the Xbox. I'm new to this ecosystem, and having that knowledge on offer that you have, where I'm able to like really get more of an understanding of this ecosystem, is it's great. So yeah, dude, I appreciate the hell out of you having me on your first video
I'm,
on the channel, dude.
I'm honored to have you, man. It's been a blast, like I said. Um, so yeah, here's hoping that it won't be too long till the next one.
Yeah, definitely, man. And yeah, we'll keep, I'll plug this on my channel and everything, so hopefully some people come over and check it out, and yeah, we'll keep this thing rolling, brother.
Yep, absolutely. Right. Well, we'll be seeing you next time then.
Appreciate you guys. See you soon.
See you soon.